tells you, Dad, can you explain trigonometry? Haven't you gone through that? Looking into their syllabus, you wonder, how did we pass during those days? No matter what you are today. So you stay back in the hospital because it gives you asylum, protection from facing some realities in life which behind that doctor's coat you feel very secure and protected. The entire essence of spirituality can be brought into 4 words: Prem, Sat, Chit, Anand. Across all the scriptures, doesn't matter who your God is and what your faith is and what scripture you refer to, everything in spirituality across all the religions can be brought into these 4 words: Prem, Sat, Chit, Anand. Prem, love. You have to live a life centered on love. Prem, Sat, Chit, Anand is the centeredness. Living your life moment after moment aligned to Prem, Sat, Chit, Anand is all that is required to find yourself aligned to all the spiritual principles that exist. Even if you are an atheist who does not believe in the existence of God, just to enhance the quality of your life, purely as a psychological concept, there is nothing beyond Prem, Sat, Chit, Anand. You have to be the epitome of love. You have to be the embodiment of love. In the scheme of creation, next to God, man alone has been designed to love. No other creation has been designed to love. I'm a dog lover. I have extraordinary German Shepherds with me. I know I mean a lot to them. It's instinctive. For man, living a life out of love is a choice that you execute. The fact that next to God, man alone is capable of loving, your heart has to beat in that love. It will manifest as empathy. It will manifest sometimes as toughness. I remember Dr. Deepak Arjundas, a neurosurgeon, once seeing my mother coming in a neurophysician, once seeing my mother come in a wheelchair, said, "Why are you still there in a wheelchair? Get up, get up, get up. Take the wheelchair out." And turned towards me and said, "Sack the physiotherapist." I didn't understand. He said the entire success rate of a physiotherapist is only the first 3 weeks, when he still did not identify with the pain of the patient. From the 4th week, there is a relationship between the patient and the physiotherapist. So the moment your mother says, he sympathizes. If a physiotherapist sympathizes with that pain, he will not. 3 times you said, "Doctor, but push, push, push." Physiotherapist even once won't push. First 3 weeks for him, that is the case. 3 weeks later, it's a relationship. So love is not necessarily tender sometimes. Sometimes love is tough. I may make people cry sometimes. And sometimes crying is what you have to create in people for them to realize what was sleeping inside them. Pampering is not love. Pampering makes people feel nice. Love creates. That which does not create is not love. And sometimes you need the tough love, especially when you are in specialty in plastic surgery and ortho. You need the tough love, because without that little push, you cannot take people out of their pain. And you need the tough, and it is love. In fact, I used to love studying in the institution. I studied in 2 schools, Christ King Convent and Madras Christian College, and my teachers used to beat me. They used to walk with a cane. And fortunately, I grew in a family that never told me that file a case against the teacher. Fortunately, I grew in a family that trusted the love of the teacher. They said if the teacher is reprimanding you, it is to create you. No military soldier in the world can be created if you're not tough. No martial artist can be created if you're not tough. In fact, without toughness, coal will never become diamond. Without toughness, you will not be able to harness. In fact, without being tough on the muscles, you cannot build muscles. Strength of character is born out of obstacles overcome. In fact, some of the most defining moments in all your life would have come during challenging times, tough times. That is when you were introduced to yourself on what you were capable of. So life itself loves you by sometimes taking you through tough times. And that is how she molds you and creates you into whatever you are. So when I say a doctor must be the embodiment of love, an epitome of love, and it's not role-based. A loving father, a loving mother, a loving son, a loving daughter, a loving citizen, a loving doctor, of course. And sometimes it's not even the treatment. When you become the embodiment of love, sometimes you know the psychological help the attenders who come with the patient require is greater than the physical help the patient requires. The patient you can easily put something and sedate them. The attender who is sitting outside the ICU not knowing whether my husband will come back or not. And what is his condition? And sometimes just a gentle warm touch on their shoulders and say that he is recovering very well. And that's what they want to hear. And all these expressions come so naturally to you when your DNA itself is centered on Prem, Sat, truth. The eternal truth of life is the law of impermanence. Anything that begins will end. Anything that begins will end. Did this convention begin? It will end. Did this day begin? It will end. Did my speech begin? It will end. Your relationship, did it have a beginning? It will have an end. Some relationship will end earlier, some relationship will end with the death of one. Your relationship with this planet Earth itself called birth will end through a phenomena called death. Anything that begins will end. Everything has a limited lifespan, is the eternal truth of life. And this is not to create a pessimistic outlook towards life. In fact, it's to create a purposeful urgency into your life. If anything that begins is going to end. And with that as my belief system and value system, when I look at it, sad to say this, but let me start with some negative examples and actually end with what I want to say. People have lived with each other for 60 years. One of them died. And when you see on the first day of death, the one who is crying, and I have seen this happen. I know people have come from everywhere, so I cannot touch Tamil, but I have seen this everywhere experientially. On the first day when somebody has lost somebody, and somebody from the family is bringing, say, upma, let me be South oriented at least for this example, and I have seen people cry. Appa is gone. Who wants to eat? How long? Tomorrow when upma is offered, I have seen the same people ask, chutney hai kya? Fourth day, television will be switched on. Seventh day, everybody will get back to work. You will cry once a month. Then you will cry whenever there is a momentous occasion. And then that person who meant everything will hang as a photograph in one of those walls. Servants in the house maintaining it, not even you. Servants in the house. Life moves on. And in this ephemeral life, in this life which is mortal by its design, is this great gift of being a human being where no other creation has been given this privilege that you can live such a life where 10 years later, 50 years later, 100 years later, one day there will be a congregation of 500 people from across the country and world sitting and discussing about the great life Dr. Bhatt has lived and gone. And that's the privilege of being a human being. The true judgment of your life is 10 years, 25 years, 50 years after you're gone. Somebody out there in the world should still be benefiting out of the life you lived and went. You made your life count then. You are accountable to this precious gift of not just life, a human life. God created human being after His own image, says Jesus Christ. Everything came from Allah, says Quran. The Jivatma descended from the Paramatma, says Vedas. Guru Nanak says, the Creator has embedded Himself into every creation. What a privilege it is that there is a divine spark that is still burning inside all of us. A birth was an unnoticed phenomenon. But the life that we live and the end that we go has to somewhere be meaningful to this world. We have to keep using ourselves and be useful to the world. You live an ordinary life, you will still die. You live a mediocre life, you will still die. You live a contributive life. You live a life maximizing, actualizing your potential. People keep saying we are just killing time. Sweethearts, there is no time to kill. Time is killing you. Life is ticking. I don't know, I cannot gauge the age of this group. I've hardly seen you for less than 50 minutes. But if the age average of this group is 30, and the world average today is 70, the average lifespan of a human being, on an average we are left with 40 years of life. 1/3 of your life will go in sleep. Just for calculation purpose. No, don't tell me I sleep for 6.5 hours. I only know that arithmetic, so I'll keep to that. 1/3 of your life will go in sleep. And that means you take away 13 years of life, 27 left. 1/3 of your life will go in work, which is not true with doctors. You don't work for 8 hours, 12 hours, 14 hours. But again, for calculation purpose, let's say 1/3 of your life will go in work. Another 13 years taken away. You're left with 14 years. Everyday chores for all of us. Snoozing 3 times before we get up. Then that reluctant brushing of teeth. And going into the pot with the newspaper along with the supplements. Your job was done 3 minutes. Because supplements are there, you're still sitting there. You don't have better furniture in the house. Keep sitting there for 40 minutes reading the newspaper. If you won't get piles, what will you get? And your urgent breakfast, and this is a modern fad, have time for everything, no time for breakfast. So roll up something, drive the car in one and the other keep biting. What a busy man, running the whole world now. And then the morning coffee to discuss in the coffee shop, to gossip about the chief doctor. Or just because you're doctors, you won't gossip, is it? You're a human being. One of the traits of human being is if 3 people meet together, 4th person must be discussed. And what every gossiper does not know is, after you leave, the other 2 fellows will gossip about you. Every gossiper is gossiped about. You think tea shop is calling you? Message is calling you. Hey, got latest update about doc. Come to coffee shop. Suddenly you can't see the patient in front of you. Some additional information. And sometimes the beauty is what you gossip and send 3 days later comes back to you from some other source. They don't know you are the originator of the idea. 4 hours a day will go in daily chores. Takes away another 7 years of your life. You're left with 7 years of your life. An hour a day to that technological nuisance which you never leave. They show evolution of man from ape. You see? Next version. Go to a restaurant and see. A family of 4 has come. All the 4 are individually looking at their mobile. Not to each other. In fact, the easiest way to talk to your son if you want uninterrupted communication for 5 minutes is call him in the mobile. Directly if you speak, he will not speak to you for 5 minutes. Go to the adjacent room and call him. If we give away only for entertainment and technology and traveling another 2 hours every day, another 4 years of your life is gone. We are left with only 3 years of life. Beyond the daily chores of your life, you are left with only 3 years. Ladies and gentlemen, it's 1095 days to live to die. And I have not put time for exercise in this. I have not put time. So most of you don't work for 8 hours. Because if I put all the actuals, all of you should have died day before yesterday. So at least to give you some future of at least 1095 days, I have done only some approximations here. And so much is there to do. So much research to do, so much music to listen to, so many books to read, so much we have taken from the world, so much we have to give back to the world. And for the amount of intelligence and research and case studies and data that you have as doctors in India, the rest of the world should be referring to you instead of you referring to the rest of the world. They say everything is big data, and the biggest data on medical science is available in India. You are still reading about all the journals that is coming from the world when all the doctors in the world must be reading journals you are writing about your research and your experiment, because nobody has more medical data than India has. And we have to turn this around. In 11 years from now, you should be the reference to the world. And it's possible. And all this has to be done. We are left with 1095 days left to live, left to die. I remember the first time I have done all this calculation, and there was an argument between me and my wife, Sucharita. And she said, I won't speak to you after this. I made her gently sit on the dining table, did this entire calculation, showed her 1095 days, and told her, Sucharita, we are not left with enough time to love each other. Where's the time to hate? We don't have enough time left to love each other. We don't have enough time to use. Where's the time to waste? I discussed this entire thing just to tell you there must be a sense of purposeful urgency. We have to put our life in top gear and run. Chit. Consciousness. Pardon me about talking about consciousness when your primary job is to help people lose their consciousness. Awareness. Again, no other creation in the world can stand apart from itself and observe itself. Only a human being can. You alone can learn from experiences. That is why maturity is a word exclusively assigned to human consciousness. You can grow through your experiences. We cannot afford to be a stranger unto ourselves. Never stop learning. Because if you stop learning, you stop growing. Never ever get this feeling you have arrived. You're going to be the only loser in the entire process feeling you have arrived. I can personally tell you on my own experience, when I knew little, I was ignorant about my knowledge. I thought I knew everything. When I knew enough, I became knowledgeable about my ignorance. I knew I don't know enough and I will never know enough in my lifetime. Every child is an opportunity to learn. Every human being, every interaction is an opportunity to learn. In fact, the moment I had just a 10-minute interaction with the family when I came here and they left, the first thought that came to me is not the parents who gave two outstanding doctors to the world, but the parents who have given a very beautiful family to the world. And I said, I have to now go and tell the entire world. The primary responsibility of every parent is to ensure that you gift a beautiful family to the world. And I've learned and I'm going back. And this is a message I will go and tell the rest of the world, and I won't miss this opportunity. Never stop learning. Everything teaches you. I'll never forget that day when I was sitting beside a bonfire and I was alone. I enjoy my aloneness because I generally live a public life and I get half an opportunity. I like to be alone. And I sat a little close to the bonfire and it was too hot for me to handle. So then I pulled the chair back and I think I pulled it too much. I couldn't feel the warmth. I adjusted again and I felt very cozy. Somehow in that instant, because I was conscious, I felt the fire was telling me, if you barge into my space, I will burn you. If you are too detached from me, I won't help you. But when you can practice detached attachment, not barging into my space, you in your space and me in my space, it's a beautiful relationship between us. And I said, is this not about relationship in life? If we can respect each other's psychological space, if we can respect each other's individuality, not too close, not too far away. So today when you're talking about prophet, that's exactly what Khalil Gibran said. If you have to hold the ceiling together, the two pillars cannot be too far away, it cannot be too close. It has to be optimum distance. Only then it will hold the ceiling together. A good marriage is one when we are able to appreciate each other's space. So today, every time children get married, one message I write and give it to them. Much after your life and my life has become our life, there is still your life and my life. A man and a woman coming together does not transpose two lives one over the other. A man and a woman coming together creates an intersection of two lives. And there is an intersecting space which is our life, and there is still my life and your life. And the sort of freedom and responsibility it has brought to marriages. And where did I learn this from? One day when I was sitting alone next to a bonfire. Why? Because I was conscious in that moment. It's such a great gift to a human being. End of every day. And I've done this now for 21 years. End of every day I sit and run through my entire day and ask myself, was I right? I pat myself on the back. Where all was I wrong? I tell myself, be aware and don't repeat this mistake in the future. Where all I could have done things much better. Where did I compromise on excellence? Where did I compromise on excellence? And I tell myself, you need to correct yourself in these small things. Those who live their life with consciousness, you do not have to search for a guru outside. You discover a guru within you. You give life to your inner voice, and your inner voice in turn gives life to you. Living a life consciously, aware, learning all the time, growing all the time. Prem, Sat, Chit, Anand. Bliss, happiness, limitlessness. We deserve a happier world. Where there is love, happiness is not guaranteed. Where there is happiness, love is guaranteed. Happy people are loving people. Loving people alone are sometimes very sentimental people. We need happy families. We need a happy hospital. We need happy doctors. We need happy teachers. There has to be a lot more laughter in the world. We have forgotten to express emotions. We type emotions. Ha, ha, ha. I'm not in touch with a lot of these things. I remember first time somebody typed to me LOL. I read LOL. For me, LOL is dog. And I don't know why they said LOL. I typed back and returned bow. And they asked me, what is bow? I said, I don't know, but what is LOL? Laugh out loud. You guys don't smile anymore because you send smiley. We have forgotten to smile. We have forgotten to cry. I was just now telling doctor when I was coming in the car, I didn't think when I started teaching that one day I will have to do programs to teach people to smile, to cry, to laugh. We've created humor club to make people laugh. I'm sure in Coimbatore also it happens. People come to park, stand together, and there is one cheerleader who says laugh, and everybody does this. Ho, 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 ho. That's not laughing. It's called circus. We don't laugh anymore. Look at some of these guys sitting there. They don't give me a feeling it's lips. They give me a feeling it's Velcro. Stuck together. Won't open. Just in the Rotary Convention, I said, I don't care what you wear. If you're not wearing a smile, you're still naked. You're still naked. Because dress is man-made, smile is God-made, and if you're not wearing the dress which God has made, you're still naked to me. I don't want to see. Happiness. And so many issues in the world will be solved through happiness. And it has nothing to do with life. These are two separate tracks. There will be challenges in life. Anybody who wants to progress in life will have challenges. You have to develop a happy attitude to look at challenges. You will have to see the muscles that are challenged are built. Life is challenging me to give me certain maturities with which I can grow in life. When you were a little kid, I know the toys have changed right now. Okay, when I was a little kid, my mother used to keep my favorite toy in front of me, and when I was just crawling, and because I loved the toy, I used to go very close to the toy. When I'm about to touch the toy, my mother will pull the toy away from me. Why? She hates me. Is it? Or she loves me? Because she loves me, she wants to keep what I want a little away from me. That makes me to aspire for it. That eternal mother called life always keeps certain aspirations slightly away from you. And she's telling you, Aja beta, come, reach out. And that's how you grow in life. Aspirations that are not fulfilled are catalysts to your growth. You call them challenges. I call them catalysts to growth. Let it continue on one track. In another track, learn to see the lighter side of life and live a happy life. The more and more all of us use the power of our consciousness and live a life centered on Prem, Sat, Chit, Anand. Let the circumference of your extroverted responsibilities keep growing. But no matter how big the circle has to become, the compass need not shift from its center. I have to only extend the radius. So let the circumference of your extroverted life keep growing. Always remain centered in Prem Satchitanand. And you will realize one day when it becomes your very nature, there isn't any scripture in the world to which you are automatically aligned because you are aligned to Prem Satchitanand. No speech of mine will be complete without this story. Even though most of you would have heard it, I cannot complete my speech without this story. So I want to say it again. A father used to come home every day and read the newspaper. And that was his addiction. And his young 6-year-old wanted to play with the dad, and she kept insisting, Dad, play with me. But the father was only interested in reading the newspaper. He wanted to know about all the scandals in the world. There was a full-page advertisement in the newspaper where a world map was printed of an international courier company saying that we deliver your goods all over the world. In a moment of situational brilliance, the father tore that one sheet of paper from the newspaper, tore it into multiple pieces, scattered it all over the floor, and told the child, "Darling, this is your jigsaw puzzle. Now assemble the world map, and the moment you are done, Dad will play with you." And saying this, he continued to read the newspaper. He thought he bought time. In less than 10 minutes, the child called out to the dad, and he saw the world map was already in place. The father was in a state of shock.